Hi, everybody. This is a tarot reading for Leo, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant for the month of February 2019. And I'm using the kind of new experimental spread that I created for this set of tarot cards. You can find a short video about it at the beginning of the playlist for this month. Okay, cool. So jumping right in, the Son of Wands is the card that's going to represent you, generically speaking, for this month. And it's surrounded by two very auspicious cards, the Ten of Cups, which is sort of like just supreme fulfillment, in terms of your heart's desire kind of a thing. And the Seven of Wands. Now, the Seven of Wands it deals with like a power obtained by one's own actions and efforts and sort of alignment with one's like more pure creative potential in a sense. So it's kind of a very solar card, like the sun card. I mean, which we don't find here, but that's okay. We do find the Eight of Wands. Okay, so that's going to be an interesting theme, juxtaposing the seven, and we also find another 8-card Justice. And we'll talk about all these as we get to them. But the Son of Wands is, it's like the Knight of Wands. It's a very independent card. It's a very independent person with a lot of mobility, a lot of ambition, and definitely seeking power. So on some level, you are powerful for sure this month, but you're also seeking power, and maybe you're a little attached to the power you have, which is why this 8 is reversed, because this is in the present, so to speak. This is the general tenor of the month for you. And it's almost like you're afraid to sacrifice the power you have so that some project or something can actually come to completion and fulfillment can ensue. So this is kind of being attached to the path in a sense, attached to the path that you're on, the seeking, so to speak, rather than allowing it to complete itself and come to fruition, which I think is perhaps going to cause you some problems. Another aspect of this too is that cups are not necessarily all that compatible with wands cards, right? Because water cancels out fire and vice versa. Creating steam, if we want to go that route of metaphor. So the water evaporates as well. I think the deal I have here is like, you've gotten to the end of something, right? You've perhaps achieved your heart's desires on some level, or that's what you've realized. And now you're attracted to something more pure, something more individually fulfilling, whereas this was more totally and completely fulfilling in kind of just a more basic domain of life, in terms of like pleasures and comforts and things like that. You've kind of fulfilled that aspect of things. You've been perhaps very happy with your life up until perhaps this point where now you're starting to leave that behind. Kind of the vibe I'm getting, right? And the Hermit card, which is the card that sort of sums everything up, and it will also perhaps offer us some advice as well. The Hermit card is really, retreating within and retreating from what was known and really contemplating the results of one's life, especially in the past. The Hermit really contemplates the past much more than the future or anything else, and tries to see things clearly as they are, right? Admits his faults, admits his talents and gains, but all very objectively, right? So on some level, this month for you is really about contemplating what you've done in the past and how you can move forward. And I love that we have this theme of the flame in both of these cards. It's arguably like the same flame, right? So on some level, you're seeking this flame, this not just a spark of passion, but a spark, sort of the spark of ingenuity and power and creativity that will allow you to really interface with who you really are and what you're really here to do, right? But the Hermit is sort of communicating that it's already present. You already have it, okay? And that it's not something you have to seek so much. It's something that you instead come to by understanding your past actions and the results of your past actions, what has gotten you to this point, really, and then being able to see it objectively and let go of it, so to speak, to withdraw yourself from it, to take yourself out of it rather than being in it and thus being it, being, literally being it in the sense of it like ruling you, so to speak, the past ruling you and whatnot. And I think this is part of why there's like a blocked fulfillment in a sense, or a blocked descent of energy, because you're looking too much outside of yourself for this purpose of life, when again you already have it, and all that needs to be done. And I mean, this is generically true for all of us, but these are the themes that are going to be there for you this month, at least psychologically and spiritually. So in other words, you're not obtaining it, right? Because you are seeking it too much outside of yourself instead of just letting yourself be, right? So that's kind of the huge theme for this month, okay? The previous theme is the Father of Cups, and this really reminds me of the Ten of Cups. It really speaks to me of, like, again, having achieved like everything you dreamed of. It reminds me of like a man who has become like a devoted and loving husband and father and member of his community, and a person who, has also achieved good social standing. And it's not such a career driven person, but it's just like a good, wholesome person that's dependable and that's done a good job in pursuing their dreams, right? But on some level, you perhaps had sacrificed something more spontaneous and creative and youthful, okay, in becoming this person who has kind of, achieved an ideal that many people around the world wish they could have achieved. Okay, or this is just, again, kind of like a metaphor, but it's this idea that, like, whatever you've achieved, right, whatever you have, whatever dreams and things you've realized are now kind of being called into question because there's something missing. There's some creative spark that's missing that you didn't interact with, and so the past that's weighing on you is basically potentially leaving this behind or reconsidering what it means, and you're perhaps so immersed in thought about it, again, so much trying to figure out what it is, that you're missing the descent of power that is ready to come to your aid, in a sense, going forward. Now, the future card, Justice, that's another 8 card, like I mentioned before. So we have 2 8s next to each other, and then we have the 9 on top, and then we have the 10 over here. So we do kind of have 8, 9, 10. And if we reorder these things a bit, right, we'd have 7, 8, 9, 10. Interesting. So we do see this, being at the end of something is what that amounts to. But going into the future here, justice can be a very harsh and unforgiving landscape, a kind of like very, very self-deprecating, very judgmental of oneself, and kind of feeling like perhaps whatever you had done or whatever is happening for you is somehow hopeless, is somehow sinful or evil or not okay, or is it going to be fair, or this kind of thing, or that you're going to have to, the more that this is denied and not acknowledged, the steeper the payment is going to be, so to speak, right? And this is kind of bringing me to these cards here, Son of Cups and Daughter of Cups. Very interesting, because these could be literally people, of course. These could be your children or something like that. But I kind of see this as a reawakening of love for something or someone that's complementary on a very deep level. And so what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that this could literally be like a love affair or falling in love with somebody and it's taboo on some level. So again, you're denying yourself that fruition or fulfillment. This could be the denial of your own sexual desires and things like that. On another level, though, it could just be that metaphorically, the Son of Cups is seeking, is going back to an earlier youthful state where, right, you've already fulfilled a lot of desires that you had here, like I mentioned before in the Father of Cups phase, but now you're trying to fulfill unmet desires that are taking you back to a more youthful place. And so then the Daughter of Cups metaphorically represents a lifestyle and a pursuit that would be perhaps more complementary to you at this point in time. So the Daughter of Cups is saying, as an advice card to me in the context of this, is saying go for something that's going to be complementary. Don't deny yourself this pleasure, this joy, this reality that you're enthralled with. Don't deny yourself that, right? Be willing to embrace it. Be willing to explore it. And don't keep putting this kind of thing off in the distance, you know? This is a very in the distance, right? This is literally, you know, there's a clearing here of these sticks, but it's this fire is in the distance of the card in a sense, okay? So, you know, it's like, well, how do I get there kind of a thing? Well, how do I get there? Well, again, thinking about it too much instead of just doing it, instead of just letting it come into you. It's kind of like how, you know, this 8 here with this Son of Cups, it just really, and the Hermit, yeah, this triple threat here kind of thing. It really reminds me of how some people will get extreme indigestion from eating certain foods. Like they don't have actual allergies to them. They don't have actual medical problems that are diagnosable, but they get like a lot of indigestion or they get worried or whatever. And this oftentimes happens when you are suppressing or denying the emotional aspect, the energetic aspect, right? Mental, emotional, physical, it's all one of whatever that food is, you know? So the Son of Cups is desiring a more fulfilling food, right? A more complementary food at this point in time. But on some level, he's denying himself that. He's judging himself. He doesn't think it's going to work, right? And so, you know, the energy that's coming forth is being stifled, right? It's being, and even in the Hermit, right? It's being receded from. So it's kind of like, you know, this is especially true of like anything that's an aphrodisiac, like coffee that's strong in caffeine. You know, it's a strong aphrodisiac. And so if you are denying yourself like that sexual energy and you drink coffee, you're probably going to get indigestion, you know, or like spicy food, for example. Spicy food can be very like empowering and cleansing and get us like feeling like revved up and pure about doing something creative and taking risks and whatnot. But if you're averse to those kinds of realities, then when you eat spicy food, you're probably going to get a lot of indigestion. And so on for the rest of the foods, right? If you're lactose intolerant, you're probably on some level afraid to be nurtured or afraid to, you know, really get what you need and feel nourished and so on. You may have had some major issues with your mother or something like that, right? These are all distinct possibilities. And granted, sometimes people do have an inherited like food allergy or something. And so that's more complex. I don't want to like oversimplify things, but in so many instances, what people believe are things that they cannot possibly overcome in terms of like eating food and whatnot are these kinds of things. And the reason I'm spending so much time on this is because there's just this theme, again, of denying what is really true and rightfully yours, right? Of, being kind of afraid to go for it. He's, in this picture, he's kind of so hiding behind this pillar of strength that he has, right? But notice it's not on fire, right? There's a lot of light here and stuff, but it's not on fire like this one. So on some level, you are looking to reignite the spark of passion and desire in life, okay? But that is being recoiled from. So that's the theme of this coming month. And what I'm saying now kind of, I think, overrides some of the things I maybe said in the very beginning before I got the full context of the cards. The only card I didn't talk about is, oh yeah, and I don't think we have any swords cards here either. We don't have any swords cards real quick, which is interesting. So there's not a lot of communication going on, for one, right? You're probably afraid to tell other people about this, which is probably a big mistake. Find at least one person you can talk to about it, right? Consultation is very important in life. Consultation helps us to see our ideas reflected and thereby become more clear about it. But we've only got this one Pentacles card, and it's in the past, right? It's like what lies beneath the past, right? Which was this Father of Cups, 10 of Cups thing, this like grand achievement. And this is just kind of like telling me like that with this, again, you just came to an impasse finally. You came to a place where it's just work. And it's just kind of, you're just kind of spinning your wheels. Things are stable. Things are good in just a generic sense, but there's not much creativity and passion and thrill. So on some level, you do have to ask yourself if you are trying to escape from some of your responsibilities. But then, of course, why are you trying to escape, and so on? Maybe at the end of the day, like I said originally, this is just things have just sort of reached, what they just are, whatever they're going to be. They're not really going to go anywhere anymore, right? You're just kind of going around in this circle. It's powerful, it's stable, and so on, but there's no spark. There's no passion. There's no spring in your step, and that kind of a thing. So I think, at the end of the day, it's about going for what you really, truly want. It's okay that you're no longer fulfilled by this scenario. For some of you, this may be much more difficult than for others. Like if you have a family and a wife and you've realized, I've been denying it my whole life, but I'm actually potentially gay or bisexual, let's say, and I'm no longer really, I love my family, but this just isn't fulfilling on a deep level. It could be something like that for some people. I don't know. I think there's a lot of permutations, of course, but that would be a particularly stifling thing for a lot of reasons. I could see how that would be a very challenging situation for many people, right? Whereas other people watching this, it might pertain to your life in, a simpler way where it's like, oh, well, I became the person my parents wanted me to be. I'm this pharmacist. I've got a good career and stuff, but this just really isn't fulfilling. I want to go and explore things. I want to be free. I actually met a guy on the way back from France when I was younger that was his story. He had become a pharmacist. He had sort of lived up to most of the expectations that his family had for him, I guess maybe with the exception of getting married. And I think he was about 28, 30. So probably during his Saturn return is when he made this shift, but he's a really cool guy. And we were talking and he just told me, I was a pharmacist for 10 years and I quit because it was unfulfilling. And now I'm just traveling all over the world and just exploring life and whatnot. So, that guy, God bless you, man, wherever you are. I don't remember your name, but that's a good example of kind of, what I'm getting at here too. It's like kind of that type of situation, I think. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. Please hit like, share, and check out my website if you want an actual full reading from me. But I hope otherwise that this was, useful for you and that you have a great February and good luck with all this stuff. Okay, see you later.